I didn't know how to come home. That sounds strange to say, but it's true. I didn't know how to be a civilian again. Didn't know how to be a son, a brother, a normal person, because I wasn't normal anymore. And I couldn't explain that to anybody. The ship came into port in New York. I remember that day. It was cold. December, I think 1945, and everybody was cheering and crying and trying to see their families. And I was standing there with my duffel bag and my discharge papers, and I felt nothing, just nothing, which seemed wrong. I should have felt something, joy or relief or something, but there was just nothing. My mother was there with my father. They'd driven all the way up from Oklahoma, and when they saw me, they started crying. My mother ran to me and she held me and she was saying how glad she was that I was home, how glad she was that I was alive. And I stood there and I let her hold me. But part of me was still somewhere else. Part of me was still in France. The car ride home took 2 days. We stopped at a motel overnight, and I remember lying in that bed and not being able to sleep. I kept listening for sounds, for footsteps, for the whistle of incoming shells, for anything that sounded like danger. My father was snoring in the bed next to me, and it should have been comforting, should have made me feel safe, but it didn't. I just felt trapped. When we got home, the whole town seemed to know I was back. People kept coming by the house, bringing food, bringing flowers, wanting to shake my hand, wanting to hear war stories, and I didn't know what to tell them. I couldn't talk about most of it. Didn't want to. So I'd tell them the safe stuff, the training stories, the funny moments, and they'd laugh and slap me on the back. And I'd think about Thompson lying in the sand and I'd want to scream, but I didn't. My girlfriend was waiting for me, Sarah. We'd been engaged before I left. She'd written me letters the whole time I was gone, and I'd written back, or tried to. It was hard to write letters when you didn't know what to say, when you couldn't tell her the truth about what was happening. So I wrote surface things, safe things, and she wrote back about home and the town and what was happening there. And it seemed like we were living in different worlds because we were. When I saw her for the first time, she ran to me, and she was beautiful. She was exactly like I remembered, and I wanted to feel something, wanted to feel the way I'd felt before, but I was different, and she could feel it. I could see it in her face. She could feel that something had changed. We got married about 3 months after I got home. I thought maybe that would help. Maybe if I tried to go back to normal life, it would work. Maybe I could just pretend the war didn't happen. But you can't pretend that. You can try, but it doesn't work. Our wedding night was, I don't know, it was strange. She wanted me to be excited. She was excited, but I couldn't. I couldn't be present. I was there, but I wasn't there. And she felt that, and it hurt her. And I knew it was hurting her, but I couldn't do anything about it because I wasn't really there. For the first few months, I tried to work. My father had offered me a job at his feed store, and I tried. I really did, but I couldn't focus. I'd be stacking sacks of grain, and I'd hear a sound, and I'd be back in France, back in that foxhole, waiting for artillery. And I'd lose time, just lose chunks of the day. And my father would find me standing there staring at nothing, and he wouldn't say anything. He'd just come over and touch my shoulder. And sometimes that helped, and sometimes it didn't. There were dreams. Every night for months, there were dreams. I'd be running through the bocage, and Germans were chasing me, or I'd be trying to save somebody, and they kept dying no matter what I did. Or I'd be on the beach again, and the water was red, and it wouldn't stop. And I'd wake up screaming. And Sarah would wake up, and she'd hold me, and she didn't understand. How could she understand? She hadn't been there. Nobody who hadn't been there could understand. I started drinking just a little at first, just enough to help me sleep. But then it was more than that. It was enough to not think about things. And after a while, I wasn't drinking to sleep. I was drinking to not feel anything. And Sarah got worried. I could see it on her face, but I didn't know how to explain it to her. Didn't know how to explain that sometimes feeling nothing was better than feeling everything. There was a veteran who lived a few streets over named Frank. He'd been in the Army too, different unit, but he'd been there. He understood, and we'd sit on his porch and we wouldn't talk much. We'd just sit. And sometimes we'd drink, and sometimes we'd talk about the war, but usually we didn't. And it was the only place I felt, I don't know, not comfortable, but understood. Like I didn't have to pretend to be normal. Frank had lost a leg. He was in a wheelchair. And sometimes I thought about how lucky I was that I still had all my parts, that I could walk and run and work. And then I felt guilty for thinking that, because luck had nothing to do with it. It was just chance, random chance. My mother kept trying to get me to go to church. She said maybe that would help. Maybe I needed to talk to the pastor. And I'd tell her no, I wasn't going to church. And she'd get this sad look on her face, like I was telling her I didn't believe in God anymore, which maybe I didn't. I don't know. God and I had some complicated business between us. If he was there in France, he sure wasn't helping. And if he wasn't there, then what was the point? Sarah got pregnant about a year after we got home, and I should have been happy about that. Should have felt something, but I was terrified. I was terrified that I'd be a bad father, that I'd mess up my kids the way I was messed up, that I'd wake them up screaming in the middle of the night, that I'd be too far away to help them even when I was right there. And when my son was born, when they put him in my arms, I cried. I held this tiny baby and I cried, because I realized he was going to grow up in a world where there might be another war, where he might have to do what I did, and I didn't know how I was going to keep him from that. For a long time I was angry, all the time. Angry at small things, at people, at the world. Sarah would ask me something and I'd bite her head off, and then I'd feel terrible and I'd apologize. But the anger was always right there, just under the surface, ready to explode. I didn't understand it. Still don't really, but it was like all the fear and the stress and the grief from the war had to come out somewhere. And it came out as anger. About 2 years after I got home, I met another veteran, Harry. He'd been at Normandy like me, different company, but same beach. And we got to talking. And he told me that what I was feeling was normal, that a lot of guys felt it, that the anger and the dreams and the drinking and the disconnection, it was normal. And somehow knowing that helped. Not a lot, but it helped to know I wasn't crazy, that other people had felt this way too, that I wasn't the only one who couldn't figure out how to be a regular person again. Harry told me I should try talking about it. Not to Sarah, not to people who weren't there, but to other vets. And he knew about a veterans group that was starting up. They met once a month at the VFW, and I went a few times. And at first I didn't say anything. I just sat there and listened to other men talk about their experiences. Men who'd been in the Pacific, men who'd been in Europe, men with the same haunted look I had in the mirror. And slowly, over months, I started talking, started telling pieces of what had happened, started saying out loud the things I'd kept bottled up. And the other men didn't judge. They didn't tell me it was okay. They didn't try to fix it. They just listened. And they said things like, yeah, I know what you mean, or that happened to me too. And it was like a weight started to lift. Not all the way, but some. Sarah noticed, she noticed that I was sleeping better, noticed that I was less angry, noticed that I was more present. and she asked me what was helping. And I told her about the group, and she was quiet for a minute. And then she told me she was glad that I was talking to somebody, glad that I was trying to get better. And she held my hand. And it was one of the moments when I felt like maybe we were going to make it. Maybe we were going to be okay. It took a long time, years. I didn't wake up one day and suddenly be back to normal. It doesn't work that way. But slowly I started to be able to function, started to be able to work without losing time, started to be able to be with my family without being somewhere else, started to be able to sleep without dreaming about dying. The anger didn't go away completely. It just got manageable, and the memories didn't go away. They're still there. They'll always be there. But they stopped being the only thing I could think about. Stopped controlling every moment. By the time I was in my 50s, I'd had another kid. 2 more, actually. 3 kids total. And they grew up knowing their father was a veteran, but not knowing too much about what that meant, not knowing the full weight of it. And I'm grateful for that. I tried to protect them from it, tried to be the father they deserved instead of the broken person I was when they were born. Sarah and I made it. 53 years we were married until she passed about 10 years ago. And I remember thinking when she died that she never deserved what I put her through, that she was an angel for staying with me, for putting up with the nightmares and the anger and the distance, for loving me anyway. A lot of marriages didn't make it. A lot of vets came home, couldn't figure out how to be husbands and fathers. And they ended up drinking themselves to death or taking their own lives or just disappearing, just walking away from everything. And I could have been one of those guys. The only thing that saved me was Sarah's patience and the veterans group, and eventually just time. Time healing things that seemed permanent. The country didn't really understand what we were going through. There wasn't therapy like there is now. Wasn't PTSD diagnosis or veterans benefits for mental health. You just came home and you were supposed to pick up where you left off. Like nothing had happened. Like you hadn't watched men die. Like you hadn't killed people. Like you hadn't spent years afraid and hungry and tired. You just came home and you went to work and you raised a family. And if you couldn't do that without falling apart, well, that was your problem. I see young vets coming home now, and they've got more support, got people who understand, got treatment options, and I'm glad for that. I'm glad they don't have to suffer the way we did. I'm glad somebody figured out that watching people die changes you, that you can't just expect a person to go back to normal after that. I'm 94 years old now. I've been home from the war for almost 80 years, and there are still nights when I wake up thinking I'm in France. Still moments when a sound takes me back. Still times when I'll be doing something normal and I'll remember a face, remember a name, remember what it was like, but I'm also here. I've got a good life, got grandchildren, got great-grandchildren, got a community that values me, got memories of Sarah that are good now. The pain has lessened, the anger's gone. The fear doesn't control me anymore. And I think about that kid who came home in 1945, numb, disconnected, broken. And I'm grateful he made it. Grateful he found a way. Grateful he didn't give up. Because without him pushing through, without him trying to heal, none of this would be here. None of these kids, none of these grandkids, none of this life that I've gotten to live. Coming home was almost as hard as the war in different ways, but maybe harder because you had to do it alone. Couldn't count on anybody else. Couldn't have your squad backing you up. Had to figure it out on your own. And a lot of guys didn't figure it out. A lot of guys are still out there, still broken, still can't come home. I think we should remember that. Remember that the war didn't end when the fighting stopped. For a lot of us, it just changed. Just became a different kind of battle. A battle to reclaim yourself, to reclaim your life. a battle that lasted decades. That's still going on for some people. If you're a vet struggling with coming home, I want you to know you're not alone. What you're feeling is normal. It's okay to not be okay, and you need to talk about it. Need to find somebody who understands. Need to let people help you because you can't do it alone. I tried and I almost broke. It wasn't until I talked to other vets that I started to heal, that I realized I wasn't crazy, that what I was feeling made sense given what I'd experienced. And that made all the difference. Coming home was hard, but it was possible. And my life on the other side of that struggle has been worth it, has been full of love and family and purpose. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful I made it through. And I'm grateful for Sarah for sticking with me, for loving me anyway, for giving me reasons to keep trying. Because without her, I don't know if I would have made it. God bless all the veterans, all the ones who are still struggling, all the ones who made it through, all the ones who didn't. God bless them all. And God bless the families who loved them, who stood by them, who helped them find their way home. Because coming home is the hardest part, the thing nobody tells you about, the thing nobody prepares you for. But it's possible, and there's life on the other side of it, a good life, if you could just be patient enough to find it.